Hello, hope you're doing well out there. I'm doing well. It's a nice day here. Got my coffee. I kind of messed up on roasting this coffee, but I'd never had beans from Flores, Indonesia before, so it's going to be a learning process, but still not too bad. Just tastes a little more like Starbucks than what I usually make. I thought I'd do something a little different today. Instead of my usual Sunday morning sermon, which I've enjoyed, I thought I would try to have do something a little more fun. I want to talk about music, and I don't really have a topic. I don't even know what I'm going to call this video yet, though you probably do by now. I just thought I would sit and pretend like we're just sitting together, and the topic of music came up, and I'm just going to start talking and see what happens. So, I consider myself. I am part of the grunge subculture and the goth subculture. I am a grunge goth. There aren't very many of us. I've never met another one, but I definitely am one. I can't deny it. Of course, one of the biggest reasons for that is that I love grunge rock and I love goth rock. I grew up in a time that was perfect for a kid to fall in love with both of those genres and grow up with them and never grow out of them. And as a grunge goth, I am always on the lookout for songs that sound like a blend of both of those subgenres of rock and roll. And if I find a band, when I find bands that consistently sound like both, well, those are automatically going to be my favorite bands. And there are quite a few. I was keeping a blog for a while called grungegoth.blogspot.com. I kind of got bored with it and decided to make really low quality YouTube videos instead. But I did talk about several bands that I consider, well, at least sometimes to be, well, excuse me. Okay, so some of the posts are about bands that are definitely grunge and goth. Well, they might not consider themselves that, but I consider them that. And some of my posts were just about songs that sound both grunge and goth at the same time. And there were a lot of the bands that we consider classic grunge bands had some very gothy songs. Especially some of Soundgarden's early stuff were surprisingly gothy. And then, of course, Alice in Chains have lots of depressing sounding songs, and some of them have some sections in them that sound gothy enough for me that I just love them, especially the song Angry Chair, one of my very favorite songs. And I consider it an elite grunge goth song. In fact, some of the videos that I have here on YouTube that I've marked as favorites that you can find when you go to my channel, you might have noticed, have some grunge goth playlists there. One of my favorite grunge goth bands that was around recently and no longer is, I found on Bandcamp. I found a lot of my favorite bands on Bandcamp. They're pretty obscure. But the one that I would consider the most elite grunge goth band is probably a band called Holding On to Nothing. Sorry, that's my kid over there, sneezing. Holding On to Nothing, and now I've forgotten where they're from. I want to say somewhere in the East. I might be wrong about that. And I don't know a lot about them, and they're not playing together anymore. They do have a Facebook group, and they post some funny stuff. They're the most self-deprecating band I've ever seen. It's hilarious. They act like they have no talent, but they were a totally amazing band, and they put out at least one full album, I think, and then they had a few shorter ones, and it's all on Bandcamp. And a lot of their music is on YouTube too. If you just type in "Holding On to Nothing," it's there. It's great. So to describe what they sound like, I think a lot of people have said that they were very inspired by Typo Negative, and they say that too, I think, on their on their Facebook group that says that. And they do sound similar to Typo Negative, but they're very different too. And I think they had a much tighter sound than Typo. Typo will be, every album is all over the place. Typo is an extremely experimental band. Holding On to Nothing, I would say, is not experimental at all. It's like they took the best of what Typo came up with in their experiments and made it a template and just made some amazing songs and sounds. Put it all together, like, it's as if, I don't know, I just thought about maybe making a cooking metaphor. If somebody was experimenting with recipes, and then somebody else comes along and takes the best of that and just makes a craft out of it, and just churns out just amazing stuff time after time. That's what Holding On to Nothing did with Typo's experiment. So obviously, I highly recommend them. One of my favorite bands. Let's see. As for something that's not so obscure and something that actually came out of the grunge era, I would recommend a band called Babes in Toyland. You might have heard that name if you're into grunge at all. They hit it pretty big in the early 90s. They were not from Seattle, but they were connected to a lot of the Seattle people. I want to say they were more from the Midwest, I think. But their lead singer and songwriter and rhythm guitarist, only guitarist, was named Kat Bjelland. So obviously she was the force of the band, definitely the leader. Kat Bjelland, and her vocal style is one of the biggest influences on my own vocal style, and her songwriting is a big influence on me too. I am a singer and songwriter myself and guitarist, so she really taught me that you can change your vocal style even within a song, and if you really own it, you can really make that work. And then your songs can be a lot more interesting. And I tried that out when I was in a band recently, and I tried that out a bit in rehearsals, and it worked, and it was fun. I'm not in a band anymore, but I'm still writing music. I'm still recording every week, working on a demo album. So Babes in Toyland is one to check out. They have, I want to say, about 3 full-length albums. And they have a Wikipedia page, so they're a lot easier to research than Holding On to Nothing. Okay, let's do a third band, and then I'll call it a video. Let's see. If I was going to recommend a grunge goth band, there's so many good ones. I guess I'll go for another one that I like from Bandcamp. I don't know as much about them, but they're called Soggy Creep. Soggy Creep. I want to say they're from Kansas, maybe? They have, I think, about 2 full-length albums on Bandcamp, and some of their music is on YouTube too. Soggy Creep. I think they tagged themselves on Bandcamp as goth and grunge, and that's how I found them. Bandcamp tags are important for someone like me who is looking for the type of thing I'm looking for. And Soggy Creep, similarly to Holding On to Nothing, was around recently and no longer are. Probably operated around the same time that Holding On to Nothing did, but they sound nothing like them. This Soggy Creep is completely a world away from Holding On to Nothing. They're more on the punky side of grunge, I'd say. They don't use like the deeper vocals. They're not influenced by Peter Steele type vocals. Peter Steele of Typo Negative. They're more on the, I don't know, maybe more on the Kurt Cobain side of the vocal spectrum, but even maybe a little bit whinier. But they really made it work. They have some. I'd say their songs are a little bit faster too, but they still retain some of the. I'd say the bass melodies. I think Soggy Creep's bass melodies are what really help the songs sound gothy. They're a little bit creepy in their sound, and their name Soggy Creep is really fitting for that reason. But yeah, it's really hard to describe, and I'm not great at describing how music sounds in words. But they kind of take those gothy bass lines, but put some of the grunge energy into it, I'd say, and they kind of blend it together, and it works. It's very hard to find out anything about them. There's one YouTube video that somebody captured them performing somewhere once, and I had been listening to them for a while before I found that video. And I was surprised. I was like, "Whoa, I didn't expect them to look that way." The singer, especially, because he has like long, straight blonde hair, and he just doesn't look like what I expected at all. But who cares? They've got some really cool songs. Highly recommend them. So that's my third recommendation, Soggy Creep. And then I'll give before I go, I'll give an honorable mention to a band that I actually met. I think just 2 weeks ago. I drove down to the Cincinnati area, and I went to a backyard concert, which I didn't even know it was going to be a backyard concert. There's this band that I found on Bandcamp. They're from Nebraska, Omaha. They're called No Thanks, and they put a flyer on Facebook saying that they were going to be in Cincinnati, and I was like, I googled the name of the venue. Couldn't find anything about it, so I asked, just hoping somebody would give me an address, and somebody did. So I went to this address, and it was just some people hanging out in a backyard in a suburb of Cincinnati, and it was awesome. The cops actually came after the band I went to see finished. The cops came, so the headliner band didn't get to play, so that was a bummer. But I guess that's gonna happen when you're holding a concert in a backyard. But I did get to see the band I went to see, No Thanks, and they were super nice. And so check them out too, No Thanks from Omaha. All right, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, I'll try to type the names of those bands down in the description so you can easily find them. All right, have a great day. Bye.